So we'll begin, if you're all comfortable. Cathaoirleach of New Ross Municipal District Councillor John Fleming, elected members of Wexford County Council, esteemed contributor and friend of Wexford Library Service Felix Larkin, Director of Service Eamon Hoare and District Manager Sinead Casey, co-directors of the Kennedy Summer School Larry Donnelly and Dr. Bob Morrow, and Chair of the Kennedy Summer School Mr. Willie Keelty. Aghuina Ushla Galer. Is misha Eileen ní Morrissey Larlani an Chunday, agus is cúis mór áthas dumsa, fáilte I chalig a choróibh Galer Galarlan Rosmic Frone inniu. On behalf of Wexford County Council, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to New Ross Library this evening for this very special event, the presentation of the Felix M. Larkin Connection to the Kennedy New Ross Book and Research Archive. Before we continue with our formalities, I'd just like to take a moment to remember the founder of the Kennedy Summer School, the great Noel Whelan. As founder of the Kennedy Summer School, undoubtedly part of Noel's legacy is the strengthening of the bonds and the ties between County Wexford and the US, and the exploration of our similarities, politically and historically. And we hope here in the library that the creation of the Kennedy Book and Research Archive, which continues to grow and expand year on year, will also be a fitting legacy which will enable year-round research into these matters. The archive will also stand as testament to the brilliant scholar, intellectual and researcher that Noel was. Ní bheidh a lehéad ann arís. And now I'd like to introduce Mr. Felix M. Larkin. Felix Larkin is a historian and a former academic director of the Parnell Summer School. Felix is currently Vice Chairman of the National Library of Ireland Society. He's a distinguished former public servant and has been publishing on a range of historical themes, including the Kennedys and the US politics, for over 40 years. His main area of research interest is the history of the press and the history of political cartoons. He has contributed a chapter on satirical journalism in the 20th century to the forthcoming Edinburgh History of the British and Irish Press. Felix was previously employed in the Irish Department of Finance and the National Treasury Management Agency, and was involved in the establishment of the IFSC in Dublin in the 1980s. Felix has held various directorships and chairs over the years, including Director of the Prize Bond Company Limited, Member of the Board of the Central Catholic Library Dublin, Member and current Chair of An Post Philatelic Advisory Committee. So if you want to know how stamps get accepted, you can speak to him later on. He can tell you. He can tell you all about it. Editorial advisor and external contributor to the Royal Irish Academy's Dictionary of Irish Biography, an excellent publication. Member of the Council of the Irish Legal History Society. Founder and executive committee member of the Newspaper and Periodical History Forum of Ireland, and member of the committee of the Parnell Society and the Avondale Trust. So it's quite a mystery how he managed to have time to collect all these books, but he certainly has. And during his career and his personal life, he has amassed this extensive collection of books and other published materials about the Kennedys, and you can see those all down in the cases at the back of the room after the event. This personal collection includes a wide range of biographies and other interesting materials. And Felix has now generously donated his personal Kennedy collection of books, magazines and other materials to the Kennedy Book and Research Archive at New Ross Library. And this collection will be available for public researchers with an interest in the Kennedys and American politics to view and reference here in New Ross. So ladies and gentlemen, Cuirigi Fáilte Leverdol Riv Felix M. Larkin. Thank you.
Thank you, Eileen, for those kind words. I hardly recognise myself. And my first words this evening are to echo something that Eileen has said, because my first words this evening must be words in memory of Noel Whelan. This event would not be happening this evening, and none of us would be assembled here this evening were it not for Noel Whelan. The Kennedy Summer School was largely his creation. It was his idea. He was instrumental in establishing it, and his energy drove it to the successful heights that it has reached. If there is one word that sums up Noel for me, it is that very old-fashioned word, patriot. He was a genuine patriot who lived and worked for his country, for the good of its people, and for the various communities that he was part of, including, of course, New Ross and County Wexford. Larry Donnelly, in a lovely piece he wrote about Noel in the journal.ie, said that, and I quote, "A belief in the nobility of politics animated much of his professional life." And that belief was something Noel shared with John F. Kennedy and his brothers Robert and Ted. He was inspired, as I have been, as we all have been, by those famous words, "Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country." The idealism and rhetoric of the Kennedys have inspired us all, which is why we are gathered here today for this summer school. I was 12 when JFK was assassinated in Dallas, Texas. And that event prompted me, at that early age, to begin reading about Kennedy and about the US presidency and American history generally. It was the beginning of a lifelong interest in history and politics. I went on to study history at UCD and later to try my hand at writing history, and I'm still at it. Along the way, I put together a very substantial library of history books and other materials. Not all about American history by any means, but American history is a big part of the collection. Not being as young as I once was, I am now beginning to worry about the fate of my books after I have shuffled off this mortal coil. And having learned about the Kennedy archive here in New Ross Library, a wonderful byproduct of the Kennedy Summer School, I knew immediately that this was the place for my American history books. A place where they would be cherished, and I hope used by scholars visiting the area to explore the Kennedys' Irish heritage. I discussed the idea of making this donation with Brian Murphy at the summer school last year, and again with Noel Whelan when I met up with him at Christmas time. And both encouraged me to go ahead with it. And so we are gathered here this evening to formally mark the handover of my books. This parting is for me such sweet sorrow. But in presenting these books and papers to New Ross, my modest hope is that the story of the Kennedys, and more generally what Abraham Lincoln called the better angels of American history, will inspire a spirit of public service in future generations, as JFK and his brothers inspired that in me and in so many others, including our late and much lamented friend, Noel Whelan. To quote Ted Kennedy, "I hope and trust that the dream shall never die. The work goes on, the cause endures, the hope still lives." Thank you.
Of New Ross Municipal District, Councillor John Fleming, to officially accept your collection into the New Ross Kennedy Book and Research Archive.
On behalf of Wexford County Council, I'd like to thank Mr. Larkin for his generous donation, and I'm delighted to formally accept the Larkin collection into the Kennedy Book and Research Archive in your Ross Library. This archive, a collection of books, publications, audiovisual recordings and other research materials of the Kennedy presidency, Kennedy family and the link between the Kennedys and County Wexford, was launched in 2017. The collection has been augmented and expanded on an ongoing basis and has been maintained for public use here in Ross. It is a collection of wide variety and contains some items of unique interest, including copies of Life and Time magazine from the 1960s, books written by John F. Kennedy before taking up political office, and other contemporary publications which are of great interest to researchers. The Kennedy Book and Research Archive has been enthusiastically embraced since its inception. I would like to thank the many donors and depositors to the collection. I would like to thank Willie Keelty, who has been heavily involved from the start of the project. And I'd like to pay a special tribute to Noel Whelan, one of the founders of the Kennedy Summer School, who made such a positive and valuable contribution to the summer school. His energy and enthusiasm will be sorely missed. A special thanks to librarian Yvonne Smith and our team here in Ross Library. Local Studies librarian Susan Kelly for her work in preparing the collection you see here today. The growth of the Kennedy Book and Research Archive further strengthens our proud heritage with President John F. Kennedy and the Kennedy family. This collection will be available to locals and visitors alike for viewing and reference. It will be exciting to see the collection grow in scope and scale over the coming years. Thank you very much.
And on behalf of Wexford County Council and New Ross Library, we'd like to make a presentation of this book, of the history of New Ross, to Felix as well.